What is going on, Jets Nation? Welcome back to Jets Media. My name is Richie, and today we're breaking down the New York Jets 2024 free agency thus far, give you guys my overall grades, and go over each signing. Now, I do have to say, free agency is not over, okay? The New York Jets had Jadeveon Clowney for a visit just a few days ago. I don't expect Clowney to make an announcement of where he's going to decide to sign just yet. He's going to take his time, but up until this point, I wanted to break down all the New York Jets free agency moves, all the players they brought in, all the players they re-signed, a player they traded for in Morgan Moses, and break it all down in this video. But I also want to hear from Jets Nation in the comment section. What's your overall thoughts of Joe Douglas's free agency for these New York Jets? I'm excited to break this all down, folks. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button on your way into the video and subscribe if you're new to Jets Media. With that being said, let's get straight into business, baby. Now, before we go into each individual player, I just have to say, round of applause to Joe Douglas. Okay, now listen, hear me out. We have to win football games before that round of applause is justified, but the reason why I'm giving him a round of applause is because he did his job. He is building the roster properly to go all in to win right now. He filled in pretty much every single hole in free agency, which is really hard to do, by the way, heading into the NFL draft. Now the New York Jets have a lot of flexibility to work with heading into the draft where they don't have to go for one or two positions because there's pretty much no holes on this roster. Now the question is, will they go best player available at number 10? And I know there's a lot of debate around Jets Nation about where the Jets will go in the NFL draft. I'm not going to focus on that in this video, but I just feel like what the Jets have done in free agency is so much. It's basically exactly what I wanted and then some, okay? They filled in the holes. They got their offensive line filled out. They got a playmaker. They got a backup quarterback, and I'm really excited to break it all down. And, of course, there's still positions that need some more work, but you look at this roster on paper, there's not a hole. There is not one hole. Are there certain positions that are better than others? Absolutely. Do we need a running back too? Yes. Do we need some safety depth behind Chuck Clark and Tony Adams? Absolutely. There are positions that are better than others. We need depth at certain spots, but you look at the roster on paper, there's pretty much no holes, and that's exactly what Joe Douglas did a tremendous job in. So let's start off with the players that he decided to bring back to the New York Jets. Starting off with Chuck Clark. This is a guy that Jets fans were very excited to see last year as our starting safety before he tore his ACL early in OTAs. So I like the Jets bringing him back. He is replacing Jordan Whitehead, who walked in free agency, going back to Tampa Bay. You know, he tore his ACL really early in the OTAs, so I'm assuming he's going to be ready to go for training camp. And I do want the Jets to add another safety or two, whether it's in free agency or I would love for them to bring back Ashton Davis, by the way, because he's still available, or go into the NFL draft. But I love bringing back Chuck Clark. Him and Tony Adams right now are the safety duo. Not the greatest safety duo in the NFL, but hey, you never know. Chuck Clark can be a big addition for this Jets secondary. The Jets were very high on him last year before he went down. Kenny Yeboah, the Jets brought him back. He was a restricted free agent. This was a no-brainer. The tight end position is pretty deep, right? CJ Uzomah gets cut, which every Jets fan wanted to happen. You have Tyler Conklin. You have Jeremy Ruckert coming off a pretty good season last year in year number 2, and now year 3, I think he's going to get an even more expanded role with Aaron Rodgers. We have the rookie last year, Zach Kuntz, and then you bring in Kenny Yeboah, who the Jets brought in an undrafted free agency. And, of course, the big question is, will the Jets draft Brock Bowers? Because he would be another addition to this tight end room. But as of right now, I wouldn't say tight end is a weakness. We have 4 tight ends that are solid, especially Tyler Conklin leading the way, who I think is the most underappreciated player on the New York Jets offense. I'm excited to see what he can do with the New York Jets as Aaron Rodgers with the quarterback. So love bringing Kenny Yeboah back. And then what more can you say about bringing back Greg Zuerlein and Thomas Morstead? Low-key the best players on the New York Jets last year, bringing both of them back on 2-year contracts. Absolutely no-brainer. Had to get that deal done. Solomon Thomas, a very underrated piece to this Jets defensive line, the captain of that D-line, if you will. Kind of, not really the captain, but I would say he's just a great locker room guy. He has a high character. He is great off the field, does a lot for the community. This is a guy you just want on this New York Jets football team, and he was pretty solid last year for the New York Jets on the defensive line. We know that we have to have depth there. We like to run a 10-deep rotation. I thought it was really important to bring back Solomon Thomas. I wish they brought back Quentin Jefferson, but unfortunately he went to Cleveland, and then Al Woods coming off Achilles, up there in age. Don't expect the Jets to bring back Al Woods. And then last but not least, Jake Hansen, offensive lineman. What's more, depth going to hurt? That's not going to hurt this team. He's a center who could play inside at guard as well. So those are all the players the New York Jets brought back. Obviously, we have to bring Bryce Huff walking in free agency, which is not a good thing. We all wanted the Jets to bring him back. He goes to Philadelphia. That was the big blow, I would say. If there's one negative to free agency, it was not retaining Bryce Huff 110%. I know that we used the money elsewhere and fill out the roster, but I really wish the Jets were able to figure out a creative way to give him a contract that he would like to bring him back to the Jets. But, hey, now it's time for Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, John Franklin Myers, and those boys to really step up big time for the defensive line this upcoming year. Now, let's go into the new acquisitions for the New York Jets. Welcome to the Jets, all of these players. Now, I'm excited because there's a lot of guys to break down in this one, and it's cool that we're getting new faces in the building in free agency. If you notice a consistent trend with all these players we're about to bring up, they all are veterans. They all have winning experience. These are the types of guys that are really good for a win-now window that the New York Jets are in. Starting off with Isaiah Oliver, who was the first player the Jets brought in free agency. Not a splashy move whatsoever, but I think he might be the replacement for Justin Hardy, who the Jets did not re-sign, as of now at least. He's a special teams gunner. He's a backup slot corner, so I think he's going to back up Michael Carter II in the slot. So this is a guy that's just going to provide depth in the secondary and be a main special teams type of guy, so expect that from Isaiah Oliver. Leki Fatu, he's going to be the Al Woods replacement coming over from Arizona, a big guy in the middle of that defensive line. Hasn't, came onto the scene and didn't wreak havoc over there in Arizona. But if there's one thing that we know about this Jets defensive line, their coaching staff knows how to get the most out of these players, which transitions beautifully into Javon Kinlaw, who I think might be the most slept-on player in free agency. Now, I know Jets fans don't like the contract we gave him. It was a one-year deal. That was a lot of money. They cut it in half, so those void years. We're paying Kinlaw next season, even though he's not on this Jets team. But this is a high-risk, high-reward type of move for the New York Jets. You replace Quentin Jefferson with Javon Kinlaw. The Jets were trying to get Jefferson still, by the way, after they brought in Kinlaw. Wasn't able to do it. But Javon Kinlaw is a former first-round pick who had injury concerns, coming off a fully healthy year in San Francisco. And this is a guy that's a first-round talent that's going to be paired up with Quinnen Williams up the middle. If he can reach his potential, which I think all he needs to do is stay healthy with this Jets coaching staff, with Quinnen Williams next to him, with Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald descending. I mean, the Jets defense is already loaded, and I feel like if there was one spot for a guy like Javon Kinlaw to break out into the player that the San Francisco 49ers saw him to be, by the way, Saleh was the defensive coordinator for San Francisco when they drafted him as a rookie, so Saleh obviously has some intel on Javon Kinlaw. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to break out and be a Pro Bowl type of player, but I think he may have a huge season on that defensive line. He has all the raw talent. He has every single intangible to be a very good defensive tackle in the NFL. I think this might be one of those moves where we look back on and say, hey, the Jets are on to something. Because again, if there's one position group I know that's going to thrive, it's the defensive line. Okay, now getting into the offensive line, I mean, look at these three dogs that the New York Jets brought in. You got to bring up the release of Lincoln Tomlinson. You free up $8.1 million in cap space. And what do? They take that $8.1 million and they're able to bring in John Simpson at left guard and trade for Morgan Moses. You add up both of those cap hits, it equals around $8 million. Just masterful stuff from Joe Douglas to fill in holes on this offensive line with the right money, right? We're not overpaying for Robert Hunt in free agency. We're not handing out these 5-year mega deals. Joe Douglas is building this roster smartly with the right cap space, and absolutely love this because we all know the offensive line was a big question mark heading into the offseason, and the first couple of moves of bringing in John Simpson and Morgan Moses, who, by the way, are coming from an organization who knows how to build offensive lines in the Baltimore Ravens. They play together. They know what it takes to win. I think John Simpson has a lot of upside as well, being 26 years old. I know that he has some penalty issues, but I have a lot of high expectations for John Simpson at left guard. And then Morgan Moses, we all know what he brings to the table. He was part of the New York Jets back in 2021, the Rock at right tackle. And then the icing on the cake that really elevates the entire offseason for me in free agency is bringing in Tyron Smith. I mean, this is the guy that can take this Jets offensive line to new levels, to new heights. We're talking about a potential Hall of Famer here, a guy that is a rock at left tackle, a multi-time All-Pro, probably one of the most talented left tackles in the entire NFL. And of course, the injury is the concern with Tyron Smith. Hasn't been able to play a full season in over 10 years, but this is a guy that can come in immediately and provide a fresh mindset, a wise old veteran that people can look up to, and he can help out this Jets offensive line gel from the get-go. Everyone's going to want to pick his brain. He's going to help young guys like Carter Warren and Max Mitchell and maybe another tackle that we bring in the NFL draft. So absolute home run, getting him on a one-year, $20 million contract, $6 million in guaranteed money. So all that $20 million comes from incentives as if he plays. Excellent, excellent job by Joe Douglas to be able to land Tyron Smith, the best left tackle on the market. And then we fill in the big hole, which was backup quarterback, bringing in Tyrod Taylor. I mean, arguably one of the best backup quarterbacks this league has had for the past 5 to 10 years. I mean, Tyrod has been a backup so many different places, and every time he gets in there, he helps the team out. He has a 28-28 career record, 500. I feel like if he has to come in for a couple of games or so, I have confidence in Tyrod Taylor with the playmakers around him, the protection around him, and of course that defense to support him to help this Jets team win some football games. So the Jets had to be aggressive. They saw the mistake they made last year with not having a backup plan behind Aaron Rodgers. They were aggressive. They went after one of the top quarterbacks on the market, and they got him in Tyrod Taylor, a seasoned veteran. Love that move. And then last but not least, the most recent signing that really took this Jets offseason to new levels and new heights is Mike Williams. Mike Williams is one of the best wide receiver twos in the NFL, next to Keenan Allen throughout his entire career. One of the top vertical threats. I don't need to break down Mike Williams enough because you guys know what this guy's going to bring to the table. The Jets desperately needed another weapon next to Garrett Wilson. Joe Douglas gets him in the building on a one-year deal. Now, we're filling in all our holes, right? That's why I absolutely love this free agency for the New York Jets. If I had to give it a grade, I might have to give it I'm flirting between B+ and A- because what more could you have asked from this free agency, right? The one thing you'd say is, resign Bryce Huff. Maybe go out and get Jadeveon Clowney. There's a lot of other things that would elevate it, but in my opinion, you can't complain about this offseason for the New York Jets to this point. They have got them to the NFL draft with all the holes filled. The offensive line's revamped. We got another weapon at the wide receiver spot. We got a backup quarterback. We filled out the defensive line. Like, what more is there to ask for in free agency for the New York Jets? I might have to give it an A-. I think Joe Douglas did a hell of a job. Of course, it doesn't mean it's 100% guaranteed they're going to win football games and make the playoffs, but it does give this Jets team a way better opportunity to do that. It's up to this coaching staff to use this talent properly for them to stay healthy and win some damn football games. In my opinion, Joe Douglas had one of his better free agencies since he got here. He has not been that good in free agency. Usually the draft is really Joe Douglas's expertise, which he hasn't been perfect in, of course, but I'm really impressed with the aggressiveness from Joe Douglas, and I love the approach of not being aggressive on day one, not handing out 3-year, 5-year mega deals. He waited for the second wave of free agency. He was patient. He got guys in the building that fits this Jets team, waiting for Tyron Smith, waiting for Mike Williams, bringing in a Morgan Moses via the trade market that no one saw coming. I mean, I absolutely love everything about the free agency so far for the New York Jets. And of course, there's other guys we could be bringing in the building soon to fill out this roster. They're not done. So folks, let me know in the comment section your overall thoughts of the New York Jets free agency thus far. This is the free agency recap and grades. I'm going to give it an A-. What's your grade? Let me know down below in the description, folks. Love you guys. Let's go Jets. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.